Welcome to NCBA's Cattleman's Call podcast with host Lane Nordland.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Cattleman's Call podcast. Lane Nordland join you here today, and our conversation is brought to you by Ambrook. We're going to talk more about this great ranch keeping tool that will help you be more profitable out in the countryside here in just a little bit. But I just want to introduce our guest here today, Mike Williams. He's a rancher from Los Angeles County, California. Joining us here today, you're the first vice president of the California Cattlemen's Association and also the chairman of the U.S. Roundtable for Sustainable Beef.
That's the immediate past chair.
Immediate past chair.
Yeah.
Oh, so you get to kind of sit back and judge now and give insight. Is
Exactly.
that right?
You just kind of slow down a little bit and watch other people work.
And so you have a cow-calf operation there. I believe it's the Diamond W Cattle Co. And what's it like? You mentioned you grew up in Idaho. How did you end up in L.A. County?
Well, that's kind of a little bit of a story, but I kind of landed there after the Army.
Okay.
I was looking for something to do. I started taking orders and wanted to work for myself, and I'd heard about a guy could make a pretty good living shoeing horses in California, which surprised me because I didn't realize there were horses there, but that kind of got me down there, shoeing horses, and did that for a while before I got back into cattle.
And so, what was it like getting a start there with no basis there? You weren't coming into a family operation. What were kind of those struggles? What year was this, Mike? By the way,
I got out of the military in '94.
Okay.
I'd been in there for about 9 years, and it was I got in the Army because I thought I was going to go get a ranch management degree, but I ended up staying there for the college money.
Yeah.
I ended up sticking around for a while, and kind of giving up on that when I got out and landed in California.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd always wanted to be a rancher. I just didn't think I was able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Good-meaning people, well-meaning people told me that you'd probably have a better chance being a professional football player as starting your own operation. And I wasn't a very good football player, if that shows you what kind of a shot that was. But and I was doing pretty good in California, but I always knew what I really wanted to do. And I heard a guy one time say, if you know what you love to do, you need to start doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And once my mind changed that I was going to do that, and then I started having to look for opportunities in how I could make that work.
Yep. But when people are telling you this is impossible, it's hard to do. And I think a lot of young people that maybe don't have an opportunity to go back to an operation, or they've always grown up in agriculture and they want to make a start in livestock, that's what they're told. What was the biggest aha moment for you when you're like, I can do this?
That's a good question, and I think the day I just kind of decided to do it. To be fair, there were my experiences in the military built a lot of confidence in me in my ability to do things that I didn't think I could do.
Yep.
Because I did a lot of things that I didn't think I could do.
Yeah.
Building a horseshoeing business gave me that confidence. So I think at some point, my confidence that I was able to do things but what I realized is you can't do things unless you go look for the opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta watch for the opportunities.
So taking advantage and finding those opportunities, who were some of the people that maybe mentored you, gave you advice, and didn't discourage you, but encouraged you?
Well, the first, it's kind of a funny story. When I first got to California and started shoeing horses, I met some guys and they invited me to come help on this guy's ranch. And my question to them was, well, what do they pay for day work out here?
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of said, well, we just go do it. And my pride kind of built up a little bit in me, and I thought, well, I put a lot of time and effort into developing these skills, and I don't know that I just want to go give it away. And so I didn't tell them that. I just made an excuse that I was busy and didn't go. So this is probably 5 years later, I guess, that I decided that I wanted to get into ranching, but I needed to be around those people.
Yeah.
And all the time shoeing horses, I think my prices were too high for ranchers to pay in that area. I don't know. I didn't run into them a lot.
Yeah.
But it was that week that I decided that I'd made that decision. Another friend had invited me to come help a guy, and I went out, and this time I said, yeah, I'll be there. So I went out there, and so this guy ended up being, well, he invited me. He asked me if I could come back the next weekend, and it was just me or him. And he was running about 1,500 yearlings and on this place, and he said, and I helped him. The next week it was just me and him, and I asked him, what do you get for running them yearlings? And he told me, and I said, well, would you mind if I put 10 head out here and just paid you that? And in his mind, he's getting, I'm going to watch 1,500 head the same way I'm watching those 10.
Yeah.
So he's getting some help, and for me, it was my break. And this guy really helped me get started. And there'd been some other partners I made and some different people along the way, but yeah, it's been good.
So could be a lot of producers listening, watching this conversation that are a little ignorant like me. You don't think of cattle in LA County. Sometimes I think of the nights are getting long in LA County. You're the reason God made Oklahoma. Maybe he should have went out there and explored things. He could have made a go of it out there, and she could have been a movie star. But what has it been like? What's the terrain? What is the grazing aspects of LA County that you're producing cattle in?
Well, LA County's kind of diverse, and it wasn't that long ago that it was a major ag. It was one of the most productive ag counties in the United States. Obviously, it's not that way now, but where I'm at, we're at kind of what you'd call high desert, and our low point's probably a little under 3,000 feet, and our high point's a little over 5,000 feet. It's fairly rugged and fairly mountainy. Probably average about 10 to 12 inches a year, but I mean, you never get your average, but that's what they say. So it's fairly dry.
Yeah.
And it's really variable. We'll have years where we get less than 2 and years where we'll get quite a bit more than that. So you got to be really flexible and really adaptable in order to, and of course that's pretty much everywhere to one degree or another, but yeah, that can be a challenge.
So what type of cattle are you running there? Are you doing cow-calf or stock, or what is your current operation?
Mostly cow-calf.
Okay.
Yeah, I keep all my heifers. So and sometimes the steers, it really depends. On the dry years, I might sell my steers and my heifers at weaning. If I got a lot of grass, I might keep all of my calves through another season. So that'll vary, but the predominant business is a cow-calf business.
So what's your perfect cow for that environment?
I like an 11 to 1,200 pound cow. You get much bigger than that, and they really struggle. And one of the reasons I started to keep my own heifers is because they really got to learn that country. Non-native cows come in there, and I brought some in when I come and I watch this. They really struggle in the fall and the winter. Some of them do, but I found that the heifers that I keep over and the genetics that I've kind of built in there, they do a lot better through that period of time when a lot of cows will drop body condition. They'll be able to maintain.
Yeah.
Because I don't supplement with hay or any kind of forage other than just maybe a little protein and salt.
What are some of the challenges you face ranching in LA County that are very similar to what other challenges producers face across the countryside? And then what are some issues that you face that other producers don't have to go through? Urban populations, state regulations. What are some similarities, but what are some differences that just make it a little bit challenging to make a go of it there?
Well, rainfall is always. I mean, that's everywhere in the United States. No matter how much you get, if you get a little less than you're supposed to, you're hurting, and if you get a little more, you're in good shape. Um, one of the things that is a little bit hard to come by is supplies, send suppliers. Um, you can't just go down to the store and a lot of times and get the things you need because there's not a lot of market for some of the materials that a rancher would need. Um, it's that's probably a big thing, and some of the other things is the advisors or expertise. It's like heart extension guys or people like that that a lot of more rural areas guys can turn to for advice and things like that. That's a little hard to come by,
Yep.
and guys that would know that specific country to get advice from. So you kind of make a lot of mistakes and become your own advisor, I guess, through that. Um, it's it's a little bit different. California is a regulated state, but what I found that with the help, and this is what brought me kind of to the cattlemen's associations to begin with. I wasn't really one for an association guy. I guess I kind of would at that time in my life. I might thought maybe they was just a good old boys club,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not sure why I thought that. I think maybe I heard somebody say that once, and I never got any better. But I come there was
That
a
Dave Daly's kind of one of those good old boys, right?
Yeah.
Good, great guy. Great guy.
He's an amazing guy. There's no question about that. And he's one of the guys that I met as I started in that convinced me otherwise. I learned that, well, I come under the purview of water quality regulation. Some guys might be familiar with the term TMDL. And the and I didn't know anything about that. I didn't understand about nitrogen in the water or anything, but there was an impaired water body, and that the Regional Water Quality Control Board was concerned about, and that happened to be right in the middle of my operation at the time. And so while I was trying to figure out what to do about it, I got involved. A friend of mine that was in the Cattlemen's Association, we started working together with some other guys, and I found out that at the state level they've been dealing with this for years, and a lot of science and a lot of stuff that would support ranching in these areas and mitigate the challenge. And through that process, I became a big believer in ranchers working together in associations and working with scientists, bringing the receipts. When you work with these agencies, these regulators, they didn't know what they were doing, and we were able to show them, and they were actually as happy that we were able to provide the answers and mitigate any impact that regulation would have had on me and several other ranchers. And I became a big believer that ranchers working together in associations is a very good thing for the industry, because by yourself you're not going to get anything done.
Now, one of my favorite aspects of CattleCon is the cattle handling demonstrations that they do here in the areas. I love sitting there and watching those guys work heifers, usually horseback, on foot. And I know you're an advocate for low stress cattle handling.
Big time.
What are some of the resources, people you've worked with, opportunities that you have partaken in to just handle cattle a little differently over the years?
Well, this has been a process. I mean, I always thought I was a stockman before I knew what a stockman was.
Yeah.
But the definition was if you could get the cows where they were in the pen, then and get them through the chute, and sometime before dark, you was getting the job done. You was a stockman. But I really got my eyes opened when I with the ranch that I'm at is there was really no cross fences, and that option wasn't practical. And I'd heard of that you can with good stockmanship you can place cattle and distribute them that way. And so I thought, well, maybe I could learn that. And it took me a while, but I resources like Steve Cody, Kurt Pate, who right here, he's amazing. We've had him out to the ranch for some stockmanship demonstrations, Bob Kinford. There's all kinds of people out there that a guy can learn from, and I'm learning right along. But like we're weaning calves, and I'm not doctoring any calves a lot of times. I might and no respiratory, maybe an eye or a foot,
Yeah.
but we're not doctoring calves. Our weight gain's good. We're breeding up, sometimes 100%. And there's there's different reasons, but I attribute a lot of it to how we handle those cattle. And I'm not perfect at it, but I try to make that a priority on my operation.
So how does being involved on the county, the state, national level, being a good animal handler, animal husbandry, how does that help share your story, especially with your neighbors in California? Because I think a lot of the time we think of PETA, Humane Society, all the protesters and the lives in Hollywood and Beverly Hills that don't understand what we do. How does that help you be a better advocate and a better producer and engage with consumers and those that don't understand what we do and are trying to maybe share our narrative for us?
Oh, I think we got a great story. Whether it's in the way we treat our animals, whether it's in the way we treat with our pastures. You know, a lot of this discussion around sustainability is a lot of people are concerned about a lot of things, but all of this is just for ranching. This is just better ranching. You'll get like with the animal handling or any of those others, how you treat your animals, that's going to pay you in the long run. How you manage your pastures is going to pay you benefits. Yeah, it also happens to meet all the concerns that let's put it, sane environmentalists have. It meets the concerns that a lot of these different groups that we can show them that, hey, this is meeting your goals as much or more than it's meeting ours. And California is a perfect test case in that they used to think that less grazing was better until the state started burning down. And so what's happened over time is because as cattlemen, we bring the receipts, we get the science, we get the data when we make our cases. So it's solid. And then when it's demonstrably solid when things start going wrong, and you can show that these other groups that wanted to kick cattle off, that and timber and all that other stuff, what a disaster that can be. Yeah. And so our credibility, even in a state like California, as a cattlemen's associate, our credibility has gone way up, where a lot of these other more extreme groups, their credibility is going way down. And I think that's a very effective way to improve things for ranchers throughout the country.
You know, a lot of the time, I think we like to romanticize. We're out checking cows, moving cows, pulling calves, doing the day-to-day, what people picture ranchers doing in the countryside. But there's a lot of that business aspect of things too. When you're sitting at your desk, going through your finances, looking for leases, how we're going to pay for things. How has being in the military, being a horseshoer, getting a start as a rancher in California, how have all these different disciplines that you have had come into your business management strategy, and how have you improved your business management strategies and planning for the day-to-day operations changed since you started there in the mid-90s?
Well, I got to admit that planning was not my strong suit. Although I'm a doer more than a thinker, maybe. But one of the things that you find out pretty quick is that, and they teach you this in the Army. You learn this in the Army. Every operation, you start with an operation order or of some form. Knowing that as soon as you start to implement, as soon as the operation starts, that things are going to change and change rapidly. But you never start without it. And there's key parts of that you consider, that are considerations that as the operation goes on, the commander's intent, the terrain, the weather, all that stuff. It brings all that stuff into focus. So as you have to make decisions as you go, the plan has provided you the background of the things that you need to think about. And So you're able to make adjustments, smart adjustments. What sometimes happens is you get in the middle of something and you're up to your butt in alligators and you forget you're supposed to be draining the swamp. You're just trying to stay alive.
Yeah.
That can lead to bad outcomes or less than ideal outcomes. If you got a plan, a drought plan, for example, what triggers and when I got to sell, you're going to be ahead in the long run. The drought's still going to be a drought, but you're not going to be hit as hard if you make these plans ahead of time, and still you can make those adjustments. I think planning grazing management, your grazing management plan, planning your grazing, what you can do to your soil over time is amazing, and increase your forage production is amazing. Change from your plant population, communities, things like that, especially with like the virtual fence and the things they got, the technology they got nowadays are making things possible that we could only dream about, when I first was getting started.
And all these new technologies too. You're talking about planning. You're an Ambrook user,
I am.
and did you explore other options? And what led you to Ambrook, and how you're planning things out? You're looking for what could happen, but you have that plan in place, and you have the flexibility. What led you to Ambrook, and how do you use that on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis?
Well, I accounting is my weak point. Partly because I don't like to do it, but maybe largely because I
I
don't
think
like
we
to
all
do
fall
it.
into that some days.
But I knew I knew that I needed to get a handle on these things as I started looking to things and asking questions about my operation. Where am I making money? Where am I losing money? And I was using, so I was turning to different technology. I was using QuickBooks for a while, and I was trying to make that dial in to give me some answers that I was looking for, but I wasn't smart enough to know how to set that up, and I didn't want to get smart enough to set that up. And I found that Ambrook was developed by people with agriculture in mind. So, like enterprise accounting, for example, it's part of the system and how it sets up. So I know, like I got the cow calf, how that's paying off my heifer, or if I keep my steers, what that's costing me and what I'm making by doing that. I have a small direct to consumer deal that I do, and I know what my inputs are and what I'm making there, so I can make adjustments as I need to go. And this is built into the software, so even a guy like me that doesn't even want to learn how to do that can just
Yeah.
you just put the data in as you spend it, or while you can still remember what you spend
Yeah.
anyways. And then it'll give you the outcomes that you're looking for.
What is that like, though, being able to take that information into a USDA office or your bank and show where maybe you don't want to show them that? I don't know. But what is that process like, though, to say, gosh darn, I'm being a pretty dang good business manager here today. And a few years ago, you're like, I didn't even know where I was with this stuff.
Well, I think whether it's bankers or whether it's your USDA guys, I think that gives anybody that you're dealing with confidence in you and your operation, that you're aware of what's going on. My grandparents lost their operation in the 80s, the early 80s. That was a hard time for
Yep.
everybody, and they weren't a couple things. They weren't really on top of their financial situation, and they weren't really wanting to change too much. And a lot of different factors led to them losing the operation. But when I graduated high school, there was over 15 million beef cattle operations in the United States, and now there's less than 700,000. So over half of the beef cattle operations that existed when I graduated high school don't exist anymore. And again, there's a lot of reasons for that, but a big part of that is that people weren't willing to step up and pay attention, whether it's with their financial situation or whether it's with how they're grazing their cattle or how they're managing their operation. you need. I think people need to try to do their best to stay on top of things, and just you not you can't be perfect, but you want to be a little bit better this year than you were last year, and you want to be looking for ways to improve. Try to learn new things, look for new technologies, and things that'll help you be a more efficient and effective rancher.
So, how is utilizing Ambrook, whether it's in your grazing decisions, your financial decisions, your heifer replacement decisions, how has that helped you be more proactive in your daily ranching rather than reactive based on the things that occur in the livestock business?
Well, it's simple, pretty simple math. Where my inputs and my outputs, where am I making money and where am I losing money? And once you know that, then you can start looking at why am I spending this money on this, or or if I'm looking at maybe adding something or a different kind of input, what could I expect to get from that? And then once you do, how's that working?
Yep.
Like, is it making sense for me to keep my calves, or would I be better off to sell them? And how did that work last year? And of course, in this market, it's so crazy that it's a little hard to make those guesses. But yeah, it's just a decision-making tool that can help you be more effective in that area.
Well, for our viewers and listeners joining us here today on the Cattleman's Call podcast, of course, this conversation is brought to you by Ambrook, and here's a little shout out for them. Tired of accounting software that wasn't built for ranching? Ambrook is the smart and easy to use tool that helps you track profits by enterprise, location, and more, so you always know what's making money. Use it from your phone or your computer anytime, anywhere. Save time, feel confident in your finances, and get back to the work you love. Visit ambrook.com/cattlecon-2026 to try it for 1 month free. Again, that's ambrook.com/cattlecon-2026. Again, thank you to Ambrook for our conversation, and that was quite a transition in, wasn't it? You weren't expecting that live read in there.
I wasn't ready. I was not ready.
The broadcaster voice really kicked in. But Mike, as I said in that mention, that you can use your phone, you can use your computer. What is your interaction with Ambrook? Are you using a smartphone? Are you on your laptop or desktop more? And are you on it every day, inserting data? What is your relationship with this software?
Well, I'm not on it every day. I might ought to be, but I'm not quite that dedicated to it. But I don't need to be. Is the nice thing about it. I try to at least get on there once a week and make sure I got all my expenses categorized the way they need to be. I got my phone with me when I need to check, and I use that to check balances, and you can take pictures of your receipts, so you don't gotta keep them in your wallet, and then you can add them when you input your expenses. You can add your receipts, and then it tracks them, so you don't have to have them in your glove box and your dash and your pocket and everywhere else. So that's a pretty effective tool. And so once a week I'll do that, and then when I'm making my plans, that's when I start to look and see, well, how is this enterprise doing? How is my stocker enterprise doing? Where am I at for my expenses, and maybe where am I at with my taxes? That's a little more concerned lately than maybe it has been in the past. So as those issues arise and the need, then I got the data available.
Yep.
But usually I try it at least once per week or more. Just make sure I enter or update the expenses that are automatically, when I use a card, they're automatically added, and I just got to categorize them, and then all the data is there when I need it.
Now, labor is a big discussion we have around the kitchen table, at the stockyards, or at these association meetings. How has the utilization of Ambrook changed your concern over labor, helped plan out what the week looks like or what your rotation might be on the labor end of thing? How much time have you saved, and even your own sweat equity?
Well, it actually takes a little more of my my time because I wasn't doing anything really before.
Yeah.
So, but I got the value of it. I mean,
Yeah.
it takes less time, and that's not fair. I'm kind of joking. When I was trying to figure out QuickBooks, I'd spend a lot of time just trying to understand. And I'm not knocking QuickBooks; it's a good product, but I try how to make it fit my thing, and that would take a lot of time. And then I'd decide on some ways to categorize things, and then I'd forget how that, a lot of things. So, in all actuality, it saves me a lot of time by just probably less than 10 minutes, most of the time, to just update everything and get it where it needs to be. And so, yeah, I'd say it saves a big time. I don't have a lot of labor. I'm a one-man operation, basically. Well, with my wife and my dogs, I guess, and a couple of horses. But so labor in general isn't a big problem, but just time to get stuff done. It does help me a lot in my time management.
Now, one thing it seems too, when maths, you can track it. You can see where you have some areas for improvement or where things
Right.
are running really smooth. What was an area that really surprised you saying, oh, I thought this was actually running really, really well, and you're like, I need to tweak something here to make this work a little bit better?
Well, it's kind of funny because you can nickel and dime yourself right to death. And I was just amazed on how much these small little expenses that you don't think about get it here, get it there, and how much that is, and maybe come up with some strategies to where I can concentrate that a little better or be a little more effective in keeping that top of mind and not wasting money that I could otherwise better use.
Now could be some folks watching this or listening to this that are saying, gosh darn, if Mike can do it, I might be able to do it. What was your biggest hesitation before using this?
Well, if it was real,
Yeah.
if a lot of people make promises and they're a little short on the delivery, and so I was a little concerned about that. But I'll tell you, the team, when I reached out to them, the team that contacted me was extremely helpful. They helped me get set up, and even to this, right along. If I'm run into a question, like I bought some bulls and trying to figure out how to get them correct on my balance sheet, stuff like that. So I just sent a text message, and they got back to me, and in a very short time we had that all worked out, and pretty simple to figure out. So the team there is really good about coming out. They've even come out to my ranch a time or two, a couple of them, and helped me get set up at the time. I think they just wanted to get out to a ranch, but it really helped me out a lot.
Yep.
And they're good people to work with, and very focused on making sure that the guys they're working with are comfortable using their product.
Yep. So, did you know that there's a member benefit through Ambrook and NCBA to receive 15% off?
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, I'll read that for you. It says Ambrook partners with NCBA to give members 15% off any Ambrook plan, plus free access to Ambrook's 6-part ranch finance course covering record keeping, basics, tax preparation, and enterprise level analysis to grow your business and protect your legacy. Learn more at ambrook.com/NCBA. So you better utilize that 15% off.
I'll have to speak to somebody about that.
So, Mike, I think the first time I met you, I got to introduce you in Phoenix on stage, and you did some cowboy poetry. Are you still doing cowboy poetry?
Well, not so much. From time to time.
Do you have a poem you could share with us, or am I putting you on the spot a little too
You're a
much with
little
our
bit-
big audience here?
It's a little bit on the spot. It's a little bit on the spot. I might be able to try, but if
Try it.
if I don't,
Yeah.
I might not get through it.
We're not going to boo you.
Well, I would hope not. Well, there's a poem that I wrote a while back. I just got out of a real bad drought, and and a few things had kind of fell into place for me. But in the middle of it, that can be pretty stressful. But I kind of had to realize, but at some point in the middle of that, I didn't know if I was going to be ranching very long or not. But I realized that just the fact that I was able to do it at all was a real big blessing. And so I wrote a poem that I say that's thank you, and it's called Thank You, and it goes, I led my horse from the corral, full of worry and stress. I was wondering how things could be such a mess. One of the things on my mind was a drought, and whether or not I'd survive it was somewhat in doubt. Another thing that had me concerned was my loan payment due was for more than I'd earned. Expenses were higher and profits were lower, and stretching nickels to dimes was making me older. So I saddled my horse, my mood dank as dew. I didn't know what I was going to do. But as I stepped in the stirrup and climbed up in the saddle, it seemed like my stresses began to unravel. And as I rode out, I began to relax a bit, startled some deer down by the creek. I heard the screech of a hawk as it soared way up high, and as I topped out on a ridge to a beautiful sky. I rode through the cattle, some nursing, or some lounging, some grazing, and checked out the calves, some nursing, some playing. I was so overwhelmed with the peace and the love that God seemed to be sharing with me from above that I stepped off my horse and got down on a knee and thanked God for the blessings that He'd given me. I still had my stresses. I didn't know how I'd get through it, but I had to thank God I was able to do it. So that's that.
Let's give him a round of applause for that. I'm glad I put you on the spot.
I'm glad I made it through that.
That radio there's a lot of radio noise behind me there too, but thanks for sharing that. I think that's so many folks go through. I know it. So many folks go through it every day. And we all have challenges, and it's so great to have resources and people that understand what you're going through. And it sounds like your experience with Ambrook has been very fulfilling.
It's been a positive experience.
So, again, Mike, I want to thank you for joining us here today, and enjoy CattleCon. That's where we're at here this week having this conversation. What's your favorite part about the trade show?
Oh, I love seeing the people. I mean, I've been coming here for several years now, and you get to meet people from all over the country, and then you make friendships with these people, and maybe the only time I see them is here, and that's definitely my favorite part.
Well, again, Mike Williams, LA County Rancher, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Lane. Appreciate it.
With that, friends, thanks for joining us here today for the Cattleman's Call. I'm Lane Northland. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to NCBA's Cattleman's Call podcast with Lane Nordland. For more information, visit ncba.org and make sure to subscribe to the podcast today.